Welcome back to another episode of Music Club FM. I'm very excited this week to be talking about the incredible Glastonbury Festival that was due to go ahead for the first time in my life. I got tickets. I can't believe it. I was so excited. I was in Bali. My mate got through twice. The second time she got us tickets, I was so impressed. Couldn't believe my life. Shout outs to Charlotte Newman, by the way, a good friend of mine who managed to get tickets. And obviously, unfortunately, the festival was cancelled due to COVID-19. Back at the kind of middle of March. Really sad news. 50th year, it was meant to be epic, and it didn't happen, and I'm gutted because of it. However, we can still enjoy the music. Like, the lineup was ridiculous. There was so many incredible acts due to play, and since then I've started this thing where we talk about different music that's around. We've highlighted different festivals, we've looked at Download, and we've looked at All Points East so far, and we've looked at some just incredible bands. So I thought, let's do one about Glastonbury, because, you know, why wouldn't you? But then I put together all of the artists that I would play, and I was like, you can't do a show with like 50 tracks. It's too much. So this is going to be a three-parter. We're going to do this in three parts. As normal, there's going to be a video and audio form, which is going to be part 1, 2 and 3. That'll also be a podcast for part 1, 2 and 3. And then the playcast will be updated into one mega playcast. So it'll just transition through and through. There is 3 different parts to it. The first part today, we're going to talk about some of the older acts, some of the more kind of traditional bands that have been put on that lineup. Tomorrow's episode, we're going, it's one for the ladies. All bands that are female, or include female acts. So we've got people like Metronomy in there, for example, who is a mixture of men and women in their band. And then on Thursday, the final day, we're going kind of hip-hop, jazz, grime, punk, electronic music, everything in between. But today, as I said, we're focusing on older music. So we're starting off, of course, with the Saturday night headliner. And this is my prized possession. My father bought this for me for my 16th birthday. It is Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band original mono press. Yes, I like to show it off when I can. So it's a prime example. Obviously, Paul McCartney, one of the surviving members of the Beatles, was due to headline Glastonbury this year. I spoke to my dad about it earlier. Apparently the set he was going to put on was not going to be anything Beatles. It was all going to be a Paul McCartney set. So, you know, there's a load of different stuff that you could go in there with in terms of Beatles records. But we're not looking at that. We're going to look at one of his classic records. I mean, I could just go in depth and do a whole podcast about Paul McCartney and his back catalogue. It would be amazing. If next year he's moved on to go and headline next year, then we'll do a massive WTF episode about him, and it'll be absolutely brilliant. But it ain't going to happen this year, so we're not. So we're going to start off the show with probably my favourite of his records, the incredible Live and Let Die. What a mammoth record this is. I love that record. Lauren hates Paul McCartney. She does, I'm sorry. Paul McCartney fans, she can't stand him. And, you know, fair enough. Like, he can't sing Save Your Life anymore, I don't think, but oh well. He's still iconic, isn't he? So we're going to try and make this flow a little bit now. I'm going to try and keep this a bit tangible, but how do you go from Live and Let Die and step it up to another level? Quite easily, with a man called Norman Cook. Now, Fatboy Slim, aka Norman Cook, aka Pizza Man, aka there's loads of different names for him. He obviously has had a mammoth career. At one point in the 90s was easily the biggest artist, like Fatboy Slim and Daft Punk are like the same level. He started off as the bassist in the House Martins, a band that was very popular in the kind of 80s and 90s, before becoming Fatboy Slim in 1996. Let's just look at some of the... God, there's so many different aliases. Let's look at his discography though. Right, where do we start? Singles. 1996 with Everybody Needs a 303, Punk to Funk in 96, Going Out My Head 97. Then you've got records like, in 1998, Rockefeller Skank and Gangsta Trippin' are iconic records. Gangsta Trippin' as well, so iconic. That kind of big beat sound, it wasn't really dance music in the kind of housey Ibiza techno kind of sound, just big breaks and beats, a bit like Chemical Brothers or Groove Armada or Basement Jaxx. Like, the whole sound was so exciting, and Gangsta Trippin' was one of those, as was Rocket Full of Skank. In 1999 he released the record Praise You, which was his first #1 record, and it was, and still is, just so iconic. It went platinum in the UK and obviously is probably his staple record. Fun fact, it's his only #1 record. Interesting. I just loved it so much. We could talk about so many different records here. I'm just literally looking at all the different records that he's had that have gone into the charts. You've got records like Sunset Bird of Prey, Demons featuring Macy Gray, Weapon of Choice, /.dash, Wonderful Night, The Joker, Don't Let the Man Bring You Down, Old Pair of Jeans, Champion Sound, Eat Sleep Rave Repeat in 2013 was just massive, and this year released the record All the Ladies. You could just spend hours playing Fatboy Slim records and remixes that he's done and things that he's been part of, and it would just be a lot of fun, but you can't. And there is only one record to take this to the next level, and that is the phenomenal Right Here, Right Now by Fatboy Slim. How do you better that record? It literally is just so iconic with like British dance music. There is one record which is arguably the best dance record ever made, and I know that this is a bit of a oh, how can you say that? Because it's true. There is one. It has everything going for it, and that is Super Stylin' by Groove Armada. Groove Armada obviously have had incredible time over the career. They've put up some fantastic records, some really different records as well. Things like At the River, which are just amazing down-tempo records. Probably most known for their record I See You Baby, which is just huge and has been used on the syncs that the amount of times and royalties they must have got from that record is just insane. Because it's been used on so many adverts over the years. Just brilliant. And I've recently released a new record, Get Out on the Dance Floor, from an album that is TBC, that is, I would assume, their next album. But, you know, when we look at their back catalogue, they're just fantastic producers. And Super Styling for me. Went in at number 12 in the chart in 99, in 2001. But I maintain is the greatest dance record ever made. Enjoy. This is Super Styling by Groove Armada. Okay, cool. Keeping it on that kind of similar electronic feel, we're moving into the Avalanches. Now, we've talked about the Avalanches before in this podcast. We played Running Red Lights, which is absolutely one of my favourite records of this year. They're amazing. They started off with this phenomenal album in what must have been 2001. Oh no, 2000. Since I Left You came out in 2000 and featured the brilliant record of the same title, Since I Left You. It's just a wonderful song. But I came across them with this ridiculous record that they put out, which featured, it was like no other song I'd ever heard before. It was bizarre use of old recordings and of weird like brass samples and old educational TV like speeches. It was really strange, but it had this I loved it so much. As like a 10-year-old kid, I loved this record so much. My dad somewhere got it on single because it's just brilliant. Obviously they've gone on to be brilliant producers. They're from Australia, and there's no other way really to introduce this record. It's just absolutely unfathomably brilliant, and it fits in with what we've played electronically so far. This is the wonderful Frontier Psychiatrist by the Avalanches. I don't think you have Fatboy Slim, Groove Armada, the Avalanches, hip hop. You don't have any dance music. You don't have techno. You don't have house. You don't have Daft Punk. You don't have Justice. You don't have drum and bass. You don't have any of those guys without Herbie Hancock. And Herbie Hancock is a jazz pianist who has put out some fantastic music over the years and is responsible for some of those beautiful samples ever used. My favourite, actually, the record Shook Ones Part 2, which is one of its hallowed ground for hip hop heads. Shook Ones Part 2 by Mobb Deep. It's just iconic. That actually uses a Herbie Hancock sample in a really weird order. Anyone that's seen the film 8 Mile will know the record I'm talking about. But that original sample is a Herbie Hancock record. But he was the first person that I'm aware of, and I think a lot of people will also agree with this, to utilise a turntable as a record in a popular song. In 1983, Herbie Hancock put out the record Rocket, which just starts with him rubbing backwards and forwards on a record. Obviously, DJ culture and get down clash and battle clashes were a thing by that point, but using like scratch sounds in popular music wasn't a thing until he did it with Rocket. So to pay homage to such an iconic sound, we have to play this record. I'm gonna let it speak for itself. This is the incredible Rocket by Herbie Hancock. Talking about iconic artists and talking about hip hop, you don't have any of those. You don't have any of the rappers that we have today unless you have the incredible use of samples from the Isley Brothers. Oh my goodness gracious me. What record do you pick from the Isley Brothers? You know, I'm just going to go through and play some of the, like, kind of snippets from their back catalogue. So you've got It's Your Thing, amazing. That Lady, which we played a couple of weeks ago in the BLM Playcast playlist that I did. Obviously, Kendrick Lamar sampled that for the record. Obviously, their incredible rendition of Twist and Shout, which was obviously made famous by the Beatles. Anyone that's a fan of Biggie will know the record Between the Sheets. Oh, what an amazing record that is. Also, Shy FX. He sampled that in Diaries of a Digital Soundboy. Oof. In 1959, they put out the record Shout, which is iconic. 1959! We're talking 61 years ago. Of course, Today Was a Good Day. What is it now? It's called It Was a Good Day by Ice Cube in 1992, sampled Footsteps in the Dark. Ah, what an amazing sample that is. Oh, I do think, though, if we're going to talk about the Isley Brothers, there's only one record we can play, which would be a Glastonbury anthem, and that is the wonderful Summer Breeze. I love that record. I just love the intro. Oh, amazing. Absolutely amazing. There's so many amazing hip-hop samples utilising the Isley Brothers, which, they're just such an important act. They must be well old. Well, Ronald Isley is 79 years old and Ernie is 68. Just amazing. Amazing. And they've been putting out music since 1959 all the way up. Their last release was in 2017. Good for them. What an amazing gig that would have been. Anyway, I'll leave you with Summer Breeze by the incredible Isley Brothers. I'll be completely honest, I don't really know anything about Crowded House. Lauren loves them, and like my mum loves them. Just looking through their track list, they're just so classic. I never realised that they're from Australia and New Zealand. They're Australian and from New Zealand. Obviously, these days I listen to loads of kind of down under music, but back then it wasn't that big for Australian artists to break over here. Crowded House have had just a massive back catalogue of big records. Don't Dream It's Over, Better Be Home Soon. Their most famous record, in my opinion, is Weather With You, and it only went in at number 27 in the Australian chart. That is mental. Got to number 7 in the UK chart, that being said. And then they obviously went and had raging success with all sorts of other records. Something So Strong. But today, we're going to play Weather With You. A bit of a 90s cheese fest, this one, but I feel sure that in a mid-afternoon beer session I'd decide that I'd go watch this because why wouldn't you? Hey. This is Crowded House and Weather With You. You know, I'm a big fan of dance music and electronic music. If you follow this podcast, you probably noticed that I play a lot of it. It really is such like an important part to me. Like I love guitar bands, I love hip hop, I love electronic music so much. And you can't talk about electronic music without talking about the importance of 80s synth bands. And there is no one bigger than the Pet Shop Boys, in my opinion. They are so iconic. The editor for Apple Music here says, you can't talk about 80s music without Pet Shop Boys. Neil Tennant and Chris Lowe's wistful new wave hits like West End Girls and It's a Sin. Oh, a tune. Brought sad boys and girls to the dance floor, while innovating with cutting-edge synth melodies and restrained British cool. Like, I don't think you have the 1975 without the Pet Shop Boys. You don't have those. You know, it's funny doing this. It was great. I just called my dad to help me out with some of the track lists because so much of this is like 90s iconic, and I wasn't as much of a music geek as a kid as I am now, but my dad was, so it's fine. I just borrowed his input. The Happy Mondays were an important part of a very important time of British culture in the UK in the kind of 80s and 90s. I was just reading up on Apple Music. You've got the editor's notes for Happy Mondays Essentials, which is it just summarises it perfectly. Along with the Stone Roses, Happy Mondays were the definition of Manchester, the indie meets dance collision with rave culture that exploded out of Manchester in the late 80s. Signed to Tony Wilson's factory labels, the Salford bands enjoyed a considerable acclaim with 1990s Pills and Thrills and Bellyaches, and the singles lifted from that album. They were huge, and there's only one record for me that you can play to summarise the importance of Happy Mondays, and I just can imagine like the old 50-year-old blokes that would be at Glastonbury reliving their youth, just with pints of lager and bucket hats, loving the idea of Bez and Sean Ryder just dancing around the stage. And that's the incredible Step On. Enjoy. How the hell do you pick a Noel Gallagher record? Now, Noel Gallagher and the High Flying Birds were due to play Glastonbury, so not Noel Gallagher, not Oasis, just Noel Gallagher, High Flying Birds. I'll be completely honest, I don't think he's bad. And you know what? In Oasis, my favourite Oasis records are Noel records. I maintain the best Oasis record is The Master Plan. I really do. I think that he is absolutely brilliant. Solo, it's not all my thing. I think he's very, very talented at what he does. But the balance of him and Liam together was just absolutely phenomenal. However, if we're going to talk about Noel Gallagher, there were a couple of times during the Oasis years where he deviated from the norm that was Oasis Records. He teamed up with the Chemical Brothers. The Chemical Brothers are two of my favourite people in the entire world. They teamed up twice. First time they got together was in 1996 on the record Setting Sun, which is just absolutely incredible. I absolutely love it. Apparently, when they used it, Gallagher used an old Oasis song called Coming On Strong as the basis lyrics for Setting Sun. Both are heavily influenced by the Beatles' Revolver track Tomorrow Never Knows. If you listen to Tomorrow Never Knows, I'm pretty sure it's very, very similar in terms of the drum breaks and the kind of musical samples. Obviously Noel and Liam massively influenced by the Beatles in their music as well, but they made this really cool psychedelic kind of record. The record Tomorrow Never Knows as well is very famous in the kind of sample community. I think it was one of the first times that I could be wrong here, so don't take this as gospel, but I think it's the first time that bands decided to go off and record their individual components at different places to tape, and then just get a producer to put them together. And what you had was this bizarre artistic collage, which has obviously since gone on to be thought out more and played with. You wouldn't have DJ Shadows introducing without that, or all of hip hop without that idea. So it's super, super important. But that record in particular influenced the record Setting Sun, which was taken from the Chemical Brothers' Dig Your Own Hole. But it was in 1999 that they got together for their brilliant record from the absolutely stunning Let Forever Be. Just love this record. It's one of my favourite songs of all time. It really, really is. And it's just a beautiful blend of two incredible artists. This is Let Forever Be by Noel Gallagher and the Chemical Brothers. The Specials are a mega influential ska band from, where are they from? Coventry of all places. Just a really iconic, what is it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8-piece ska band. They started in 1977, so they've been around for a long time. Had massive hits with records like Too Much Too Young, A Message to You Rudy, Rat Race. You just gone on and had huge just mad. Today we're playing probably my favourite record by them. That's the incredible Ghost Town, which is just so iconic of the Specials. A lot of people don't like ska. I don't know, I think it's just brilliant. It's so of its time, and it was such an important period, and without people like the Specials you don't have so much music of today that really blended genres, and in a way that I don't think many other people have. So I love the Specials and definitely have a lot of time and respect for them. Today we're playing the wonderful Ghost Town, which is just a ridiculously brilliant record. It switches and changes, and it's like nothing else that I think I've ever heard since then. So yeah, enough said really. This is Ghost Town by the Specials. In the 90s, you had amazing bands like Blur and Pulp and The Verve and Oasis. And one of the bands that always gets overlooked for me is the Manic Street Preachers. My dad was a huge Manic Street Preachers fan, is a huge Manic Street Preachers fan, in the 90s anyway. And they're just brilliant. They've had such iconic records over the years. They're Welsh, is that right? They've been together since 1988. That's absolutely mad. Records like Everything Must Go and A Design for Life, If You Tolerate This Then Your Children Will Be Next, You Stole the Sun From My Heart. There's so many massive records by them. Today though, we're playing the absolutely brilliant record, Motorcycle Emptiness from 1992. Oh, it's just so iconic. It's just so like of them. Generation Terrorist was the album it was taken from. Only charted at number 17 in the UK, 151 in Oz. Who knew that the chart went that big in Australia? Number 17 in 1992. Just an absolutely brilliant record. I love that so much. Yeah, just great. This is Motorcycle Emptiness by the Manic Street Preachers. In 1996, the Lightning Seeds released this brilliant record, Three Lions, which has gone down to be arguably the most important football record in the world. I mean, it is our British national anthem when it comes to football. Three Lions on the shirt. What a bloody brilliant record that is. It was then re-released in 1998 with for obviously the World Cup in France. I think it's been re-edited a few times since for all sorts, but it's such a cult classic record. But the Lightning Seeds are amazing. They also released records like The Life of Riley in 1990, Perfect in 1994. That album, Jollification, it's such an iconic album cover, just the strawberry. I remember it so well as a child, just being an important part of like Britpop in the 90s. And there's only one record that I'm going to play from that, and that's the incredible Lucky You, which is just one of my favourite records by them. I think that it's such an underrated album, and they are such a cool band that I've never really taken very seriously, if I'm honest with you, but they're just great, and I would love to go and see them. So hey ho, this is Lucky You from the album Jollification by the Lightning Seeds. We're keeping it going with like kind of 90s Britpop thing. We're sticking now with the incredible Supergrass. Supergrass obviously have had amazing success over the years. They fit in perfectly with like the Happy Mondays and Noel Gallagher and the Manic Street Preachers and the Lightning Seeds. Supergrass are there as well. We're just missing the Stereophonics really. But just amazing, absolutely amazing. Obviously the most famous record of theirs has to be like Alright, because it's just huge. Went gold in the UK. Pumping on Your Stereo is just absolutely brilliant. There's so many that are just so good by There's one record though which stands out to me as my favourite, and that's the absolutely brilliant Move In. I love the way that it starts off like a ballad and moves into this just big, bolshy British Britpop record. It's absolutely great. They're a great band. It'll be great to see them live, and they're so iconic. Like they're important for so many other bands. We'll be playing people like Cage the Elephant in later episodes, and without Supergrass, you don't have people like them, I don't think. So hey ho. Well, we're going to leave you now with the incredible Moving by Supergrass. And how do you finish off the kind of older section? How do you finish off the heritage, the old school kind of Britpop era? We've gone through Noel Gallagher, the Happy Mondays, Manic Street Preachers, the Lightning Seeds and Supergrass. This sounds like it would have been perfect on Radio 1 in 96. There's only one way we finish that off, and that is with the incredible Loaded by Primal Scream. Oh goodness me, what an amazing record that is. This record was produced by Andrew Weatherall, who tragically passed away this year. Really, really, really sad. Bobby Gillespie was the lead singer of Primal Scream, and they put out a record in a Scottish band. Did not know that. I'm just reading the Apple Music bio for them. Initially part of the jungly 60s influenced C86 indie scene in the UK, Glasgow's Primal Scream broke into the mainstream with their iconic third album, 1991's Screamadelica. By incorporating elements of dance music into their rock grooves, it perfectly encapsulated the sound, just like we were saying with the Happy Mondays and the Stone Roses, similar kind of thing. It went on to win the Mercury Prize. Led by the charismatic Bobby Gillespie, Primal Scream have continued to experiment with their sound, being electro, funk, industrial, hard rock and techno into subsequent releases with great success. You know, moving on up, rocks. They've had massive records, and they really do cover a lot of bases, but there's only one record that you can end this show on, this part of the podcast, and that is the incredible Loaded. What an amazing record. I'll leave you with this one. This finishes off our 90s Britpop meets also some really great old stuff as well. Special. I hope you've enjoyed this. The next show, which comes out tomorrow, is going to be all about female acts. So we've got people like Taylor Swift and Diana Ross and Khalees and Sampa the Great and Haim and Bibi Doobie. There's so many amazing women that are playing this festival, and the lineup I got is a corker. Subscribe if you want to check that one out. That's going to be coming up tomorrow. If you want to listen to this as a playcast like a radio show, you can do by following the Spotify links below. If you don't have Spotify and you want to listen to this in audio format, you've got it on Apple Music. Let me know what you think about this. It's a bit weird. I don't really do old music on this channel. Usually we just keep it to new stuff, but I think it's been fun to go back and play some absolute corking records from the past. So enjoy. I'm going to leave you today with the incredible Loaded by Primal Scream. Cheers.